Hello, Governor. This is Steve nupefromdaville. I'm here to talk to you about Doctor Who Season 9, Episode 14, yet another Christmas special. This one's called The Return of Doctor Mysterio. First, let me tell you a little story. You know, for the past 50 years strong now, audiences everywhere have been treated to the cinematic joys of superhero movies. 1978 was the first Superman movie. And in that movie, people seeing Christopher Reeve as Superman on film, they believed that a man could fly, jump over tall buildings, be faster than a speeding train. Now, it took a while for the technology and all those things to catch up for us to get more believable fare. And we got Batman in the early 90s. And then we ended up getting the Spider-Man and the X-Men movie. And then the MCU came along and changed everything. But why do we even like superheroes? Why'd you like Superman? Because by day, he's not Superman. He's Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter. Now, my personal favorite was Spider-Man. You know, because at the time, when I got introduced to Spider-Man, I was a teenage kid too. So he's a teenage kid with all these abilities, but his uncle told him that with great power came great responsibility. And so he wore a mask. Peter Parker wore a mask and became Spider-Man. But why did I like Spider-Man? Why did you like Superman? No, and there's plenty more of them, you know. Batman, you know, his alter ego was Bruce Wayne, billionaire. Bruce Banner, the Incredible Hulk, you know, was a wonderful, super intelligent physicist, Dr. Bruce Banner. But something about masks. You know, the thing is, even though we might not be superheroes, all of us wear masks every day. You wear a mask to your job. Because how you act on your job is not how you act when you're off the job. Now, in my community, we call it code switching. And when we get off work or when we get out of these places where we have to be more professional or a different way, then we'll speak the way we want to speak. And we'll do things the way that we want to do them. Why do we wear these masks? Let's talk about it. Hello, Governor. This is Steve nupefromdaville, and we're here to talk about Doctor Who Season 9, Episode 14, The Return of Doctor Mysterio. Now, if you rock with me for any time, you know that I normally do a really long recap. Not going to do it. It's going to be extremely short because I feel like you've either seen the reaction with Centel and myself, or you're here watching this deep dive because you've seen the episode and you just want to see what I got to say. The Doctor arrives in New York City in 1992 during Christmas, so this is a Christmas episode. And this is also Moffat tying up when we last came to New York with the Angels in Manhattan. So we're tying up our New York thing. And the Doctor comes there because there's a lot of that quantum energy or what have you. So he's putting this device on top of a building and he runs into this little boy, 8-year-old boy named Grant. And he hands Grant this stone. It's a wish granting stone, but he needs a stone to put in his machine. Well, Grant had just got through talking about being sick. The Doctor introduced himself to Grant as the Doctor, and then he told Grant to hold this. Well, being a little boy, Grant ate the damn stone. He thought it was medicine. The little boy starts to float in the air because it's granted his wish. Grant read a whole bunch of comics and that was his thing. So the doctor said that the stone is supposed to pass through Grant's system and that he would get it out later, but he had to make Grant promise not to use his wish granting abilities and not use the powers of the stone. The doctor comes back in 2016 and the doctor cut Nardo out of Hydroflax just to make sure that he wasn't lonely. And he's investigating a company called Harmony Shoal. They come across a reporter named Lucy Fletcher, and there's some freaky stuff going on at Harmony Shoal, and we see some aliens that can split their heads in half, and they're basically, it's like an invasion of body snatchers kind of people. They're taking people, taking their brains out and putting one of they alien people inside them. And the whole thing is to replace all of the leaders in all the countries all over the world, all the people in places where they can make decisions, to have their whole fleet of little brains with eyes come down and invade all of Earth. But there's a superhero that shows up called the Ghost that shows up to foil the day. The doctor looks at the Ghost knowingly, and he ends up going to see Grant, who we find out is the Ghost. And Grant is actually a nanny. He's a living nanny with Lucy Fletcher, who the doctor just met. And so this is basically our own Superman story, because Grant is pretty much like Superman. So and he's living with his own Lois Lane. It's weird. So the little aliens are trying to invade. They have a plan. They're gonna blow up New York City with their spaceship in orbit. But that would force all the world leaders to go to the Harmony Shoal building, because it's made of a kind of metal that will withstand a nuclear blast. And then once they get all the world leaders in their buildings all over the world, they're gonna swap their brains out. The doctor finds out, the Ghost, Grant, finds out. Of course, they foil the plan, and it's whimsical, it's campy, but it's a very fun episode. So I'm not mad at it. It's fun. Nardo at this time appears to be the new companion for the doctor, but I know how it is on Christmas episodes, so we gotta wait till the first episode of season 10 to see if this is what it's really gonna be. You know that I like my quotes, and I only have one today. And it's called We Wear the Mask by Paul Laurence Dunbar, which just happens to be the name of my alma mater. It's the school I graduated from in Lexington, Kentucky. So go Bulldogs. We wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile. With torn and bleeding hearts we smile, and mouth with myriad subtleties. Why should the world be overwise in counting all our tears and sighs? Nay, let them only see us while we wear the mask. We smile, but O great Christ, our cries to thee from tortured souls arise. We sing, but oh, the clay is vile beneath our feet and long the mile. But let the world dream otherwise. We wear the mask. Again, I read a poem called We Wear the Mask from Paul Laurence Dunbar. And I'm calling this particular media therapy deep dive, The Mask We Wear. I love this poem. I learned this poem when I was in high school. When I started going to Paul Laurence Dunbar, I had to find out more about him. Lexington, Kentucky is a pretty conservative town. And even though it skews Democratic, mostly because of the University of Kentucky, most large cities that have a university and have a different way of thinking, usually those towns or counties might skew towards blue. But the rest of the state is red as hell. It just is. I was like, why would they name this new school after this black man? Now, there was a Paul Laurence Dunbar previously in the black section of town in the East End. And in its heyday, Paul Laurence Dunbar was that school. Lexington Dunbar was that school. And they battled Louisville Central many a time. Those were the two schools. But for whatever reason, that school closed down and no longer became part of the school system. So they decided to reopen it, but they moved it to the other side of town, near the airport, near the very affluent families and houses. Now, it's a big, wonderful, you know, when it was built, it's a state-of-the-art, big, wonderful, beautiful high school. But it's positioned in a section of town that it's named after a black man, but it ain't for black folks. Do some go there? Absolutely. A bunch of them. But it is what it is. Now, I say all that because this particular poem, We Wear the Mask, it reminds me of this about Grant. Grant was hiding who he was the entire time, but his natural thing was to help people. Ever since he was 8 or before, he'd been reading comic books. So he read about all these great deeds of your Spider-Mans, of your Supermans. And that's what he wanted to be. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to help people. It makes it easier when you have superpower. So he had a stone literally that was lodged in his body and became part of his DNA, where he could internally wish something and make it happen. So he had super speeds. He could fly. He could, you know, do all these things. Super strength. He was a superhero. But because of that, the ghost got all of the pub. And Grant was a nobody. Now, he was living with Lucy as her nanny. He had been friends with Lucy almost his whole life. Been in love with Lucy his whole life. And he actually went all friend zone with her early and introduced her, you know, or she didn't see him. She saw one of his friends and ended up getting pregnant, had a child by one of his friends who decided that's not what he wanted for his life. So he dipped out on Lucy. Because even though he was a superhero and when he had his mask on, he could do anything, without his mask, he didn't even have the courage to tell Lucy how he felt. You know, and maybe it's because sometimes it's hard to see people as they are. A lot of people have this idealized, this dream version of their perfect mate in their head. And for whatever reason, they don't realize that that is a dream. That's a fantasy version. And they feel like if I just keep looking for it, it's out there somewhere. Maybe. But maybe what you don't understand is your dream version doesn't start out like that. None of us start out the way we are. I've matured and gotten more experience and become this. But in getting more experience and maturing, I've also had an incredible number of lows. Divorce, depression, anxiety, health issues, overweight. And a lot of that has made me who I am today. So does that mean that, are you willing to take that on? Because that's what you're asking. When you get with your partner, whoever that might be, are you willing to take on the good and the flaws? Are you trying to reshape them, to remold them into who you want them to be? Trying to turn them into the dream version you have in your head, even though you haven't communicated to them what that even is. I like in this poem, he said, we wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. And I say that all the time because your body language, my face can give me away 100% of the time. Something's happening and my face will change. I'm like, what the hell? You know, I should be, you know, grinning. Oh, wonderful. My face would be like, what the shit? I can't help it. And part of that is, especially as a man, and I don't know what women go through, so I can't speak to that, but I know as a man, as a black man, a lot of times we have to present this facade of happiness and strength to the world, even though inside we are dying. We will endure significant suffering and hardships, all while putting on a smile and presenting this, I don't want to say it's a sham, but it's definitely a mask. Now, people rock all kinds of different masks. You see people that are on drugs, and that's part of their mask. And the thing is, depending on how you know them, you think that that's the mask that they put on, but that might be the real them. The mask might be the one that you are familiar with, that you met in middle school, high school. That might be the mask. That's not the real them. The real them is the ones that are out here on drugs doing whatever. You know, liquid courage. People drink a lot of alcohol, and you be like, why do you do this? Because they feel good doing that, because that's the real them. They like being in that state of mind, because when they have to go back down to the one that's depressed and hard time finding a job and can't keep a woman or whatever the hell is, dog ran away, you know, paying too much child support, can't see his kids, you know, his boss on his job sucks, whatever. That's the life that you hate to deal with. So I'd rather stay up here in this other place, so I don't have to deal with my real life. You know, at first we were talking about the superheroes. We were talking about Superman and Spider-Man. Most people who are not familiar with comic books, think that Superman is the mask. Superman is the costume. But what we learn about Superman is that no, Clark Kent is the costume. He's an alien. He came to this planet. He already was Kal-El. He already was Superman. It's not what he was calling himself, but he came here with the powers. He's powered by our yellow sun. He already had all of that in him. He put on the mask of Clark Kent to learn how to fit in with us. That's why he put on the mask. To learn how to fit in. And sometimes that's why some of us put on the mask. Peter Parker, on the other hand, his mask truly is Spider-Man, because he likes being Spider-Man. But he just wishes that his life would work out better as Peter Parker. With great power comes great responsibility. He's got all this power, but he has a hard time paying his rent. He can't keep a steady job. He's got all these problems with his woman. And part of that is because he is living the best he can as Peter Parker. And all this good that he does as Spider-Man, he doesn't use those powers for evil, because of what his uncle told him right before he died. You have to be responsible with what you've been given. He hides his face. He puts on the mask because he knows the people that are trying to come after him would harm every loved one he has just to get to him. That still doesn't explain why we put on the mask. Grant put on the mask because he was hiding from Lucy. He couldn't tell her. He was hiding from himself, hiding from his feelings. Why do you put on the mask? This is Rakai Steed, nupefromdaville. Make sure that you like this. Make sure you share it as much as possible. Leave me a comment. The different sides of you. Which one is the mask and which one's the real you? What do you think about this particular story, this episode? What do you think about what I said about Superman and Spider-Man? And if for some reason you haven't subscribed yet, do yourself a favor, hit the button, subscribe now. Watch some of the older videos. There might be a lot in there that resonates with you. Remember, everything I watch, it's all about this, but it's even more important when you use this.